Do you want to know how the big companies generally save on taxes? They do it by setting up companies in multiple jurisdictions and moving transactions to the one that charges them lower tax. That ultimately is what transfer pricing is. It's moving profits from a high tax country to a low tax country, or at least that's the way to use it beneficially. I'm going to show you how you can use that for a small business and also look at some of the opportunities and risks associated with transfer pricing that you may not be aware of. The typical place that I see transfer pricing with normal businesses, so not your multi-billion-dollar businesses, but normal people with small to mid-sized businesses. From an inbound perspective, so non-US company is looking to invest into the US market, maybe with a distribution type setup or some other scenario where there's two companies in different jurisdictions, or a US company that's trying to operate in a foreign jurisdiction, and it makes sense to have a foreign company there. A lot of times I see that, say, with a support center, for example, US company with a call center in India. In India, you're generally going to want to set up a company there, and you're going to have to pay that company from the US parent company to pay for that service that's being provided there. That's where transfer pricing comes in. And what we're trying to do from a tax perspective is make sure that if you're liking this video, you should really check out my newsletter where I put out different tips and tricks, latest law changes that can really help you save money and save complexity if you're living or investing abroad. Just think how much you could save with the right tax advice. That the profitability of that transaction is sitting in the place that has the lower tax. So that's what we're trying to achieve, but we also have to avoid any big risks associated with that because the two countries involved are also going to want to make sure they're getting their fair share of that tax. So the principle that's at play in transfer pricing, it's what's called the arm's length principle. So the IRS has this principle under Section 482, and basically it's just saying that if you have a common owner that owns two companies and there's transactions between each two commonly controlled companies, you have to transact at an arm's length price, or what two unrelated companies would charge each other for the same service. That's the general rule. But what we can do from a transfer pricing perspective is apply the methodologies that are given to us from the IRS and make sure that we're using the number that gives you the best answer from an overall US tax perspective, while also documenting that right answer so that the IRS can't come in and give you their best number, which is not going to be the best tax result for you. So a lot of times when I work with companies that are on the smaller level, they just assume that transfer pricing is something that's done only for big companies, or it's way too expensive for me. Transfer pricing doesn't have to be a huge Herculean effort and a 100-page document showing you the different pricing strategies that are available. Where I see people getting into problems is they just apply, say, a cost plus method. So if you have a subsidiary in a foreign country or you're investing into the US, you just take the expenses of that other jurisdiction and you apply, say, 2 to 3%. That sounds reasonable. That's okay, but if the IRS ever challenges that, you're going to have no leverage in that conversation because you have no documentation backing up your number other than that you stick your finger in the air and think that 2 to 3% sounds good. So they're going to give you a much higher or different number, whichever one affects them the best, and then you're paying tax in the US on that, and now you got to convince the foreign jurisdiction that what the IRS came up with was the right number. So it gets very complicated. So I always suggest to my clients that are dealing in multiple jurisdictions, let's get somebody on board that can give us a reasonable approach and a defensible approach to the right price so that we can save money on taxes and also defend ourselves in the case of an audit. You see this at the individual level too. For example, I have a client that recently moved to Puerto Rico, and one of the best opportunities out there, actually Puerto Rico has the best thing going as far as tax minimization for an individual. You move to Puerto Rico, and under Act 60, you can set up a Puerto Rican company. So let's say you had a US partnership and you're a partner in that partnership, you're getting a K-1, you're getting paid from that partnership, you move to Puerto Rico. In order to take advantage of Act 60 and get that lower 4% tax rate, you have to set up a Puerto Rican company and have the US company pay that Puerto Rican company for your service. You can't just make up that number. You can't just have them pay the entire amount because that's now two commonly controlled entities. And that's where transfer pricing comes in, because Puerto Rico wants to make sure it's getting its fair share, and so does the US. So you have to come up with a reasonable price or an arm's length price for that piece. And that's where transfer pricing can come in, because you want to get a defensible, beneficial number on the front end, so the IRS doesn't come in later and give you their beneficial number that you cannot argue against without any documentation. So there's multiple ways of actually arriving at that number. There's cost plus method, there's retail sales price method. A lot of times you can look at comparables to see what would a similar company in the same type of environment earn on that type of income. So a lot of times you're looking at these comparables, but that's where a transfer pricing professional is really required or necessary to look at that pricing and valuation to make sure we're using the right methodology to come up with that number, and also that we're doing it in the most beneficial way. If transfer pricing seems like something that's relevant for you and your business, reach out to me at McGowanTax.com for a consultation. If you're enjoying this video, please take a minute to like and subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below.